authenticity, you can really catapult your career and help your personal life as well. Hey, everybody, I'm Pat Laurie. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can connect, how you can show up, how you can be authentic on camera and in life, and really make meaningful connections and authentic, meaningful connections. Now, I know it can be really hard in this age of COVID, but I have a special guest today who's going to be talking to us all about how we can authentically show up and connect with others. She is Robin Fox, and she is a social emotional educator and also the author of a book called Social Eyes Together. It's a book about how we can really ignite the power of belonging. Robin, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, Pat, thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, it's so important, I think, when we talk about how we show up. But a lot of us can be fearful about how can we break through and really be authentic. What can you tell me about that?
Well, there is a part of us that is there. It's authentic. It's really who we are. And yet there's so many ways that we protect ourselves and cover up. We're afraid. There's just, how will people take it if I am this way or if I say that? And yet we can get closer to our truth, our authentic self, by really tuning in, being present and mindful. And there are so many ways to do that. It's just, I love how there's an explosion now of people who are promoting different techniques, and there's no one way. There's just so many ways to get to that place where the words that come out of your mouth are just right from deep within you. And you can't go wrong.
And so, how do we even get there, though? I mean, how can someone that might be an introvert, or, now in the day of COVID and we're all online, it's hard because you're not sort of brushing up against people, around the water cooler at work. You're not having these, side conversations, and it seems somewhat intense. So, how do you teach people the first step to really showing up authentically?
The way that I do it, and all of my work is because I've traveled from a place where I was pretty emotionally stilted and didn't trust that I was okay enough to be fully present and be fully with people. But the first step is to know that the present moment is always the place where we learn. The present moment will always lead us to our deeper, fuller self, to deeper, fuller connections, and to representing ourselves in ways that feel really good to us. And if we can feel really good, that transcends Zoom and Google Meets and FaceTime. It goes into a place where you're now sending out who you are, and that's all we got. So, when we can feel comfortable and accept ourselves for who we are, we can send it out.
So what came to mind when you said that was I used to say when I got nervous about things, don't think, don't think. Get out of my head, get out of my head. Does that help?
Oh my God, that is everything. Our thoughts are so useful and helpful. I love my mind. And yet there's a time and a place for being able to have another avenue of being in the world besides just having our thoughts lead us. And that is to become quiet inside and to listen instead of always planning, always thinking. And that's why the program that I developed, it's a social emotional learning program, which we all need. And it consists of improv, theater activities and exercises, because they help you to become present and comfortable with who you are and accepting yourself and accepting others for who they are. And then mindfulness, because in order to really tap into our internal wisdom and guidance, we need to quiet our thoughts. We'll never control our thoughts.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. I love the fact that you're doing improv, because to me that says playful. That says like unpredictable. And I like unpredictability.
Exactly, because that is where life is happening. The present moment is where all the juice is, all the good stuff is. So we train kids and teachers and parents to become more present in the moment, more flowing, more flexible, more accepting. And so that is a real big uh, uh, help to becoming present, along with the mindfulness and cognitive awareness, which is thinking about your thinking, like, are these thoughts helping me? Hmm.
Mhm, mhm.
No, I feel really lousy right now. So how can I feel better? And there's lots of techniques to deal with difficult emotions that can help you move from that shame or the guilt or the discomfort of loneliness being abandoned to a more wholehearted way of existing.
So, tell me about, people talk about the importance of that gut feeling and listening to your gut, but does that help you? And how does that help you? And how can you tap into listening to your gut?
Well, there's so much intelligence in our gut, in our body, and we in times that are really important, we say, oh, I listened to my gut and I did this or I did that, or my gut told me not to do that. It's that feeling of truth that is guiding us. And really, we have an internal guidance system. It's like a GPS, and we can tune into that and we can learn to be okay with our mistakes, because our mistakes, it's like an archer, and you're aiming for that bullseye and you miss it, but then you just adjust a little and you look for that bullseye, and you over and over again, each mistake becomes the path to the bullseye. And as you get more in tune with listening to your gut through mindfulness, you can make less mistakes, basically, because you are aligning with who you are authentically, and your target, your goal, your mission more authentically. So it becomes this beautiful trajectory from where you are to where you want to be.
I really like that you said that because I feel that people can beat themselves up. Like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I did it wrong. I didn't get it right. Game over," And that can kind of get in your head and get in your way. But I like as sort of like a moving target, like, "Okay, we didn't hit the mark here, but we're getting closer and closer with each chance we take, with each time we can explore new techniques and tools and take chances," right?
That's another wonderful thing about using improv as a path to belonging, joy, social, emotional freedom is improv. One of the rules is there are no mistakes. There are no mistakes in improv. So every mistake can be turned into gold.
That's liberating, and that reminds me that, we should keep an open mind. So does improv help people sort of open up a little bit?
Absolutely. You when you're learning improv exercises and eventually doing scenes, uh, you need to be present in the moment, because you're looking on purpose and you're listening on purpose to everything going on, so that you can move into that world that you're co-creating with the other players. And then you are less self-conscious. You really learn to let go of how you look, how you appear to other people, because that gets in the way of having fun. Think about back to when you were a child and you were playing. You didn't like say, I wonder what Debbie's going to think of if I want to do this. You just did it. You did it, and they came along with you, and the better the friendship built on you accepting what they wanted to do and them accepting what you want to do. Before you knew it, it was 3 hours later.
And so you do this work with corporations too, right? To teach people how to be better team players, how to build that camaraderie, that type of thing.
Absolutely. It's called Applied Improv, and there's a whole organization, an international organization of people like me who are using the incredible wonders of improv to bring people together to have people become more self-aware, and build better relationship skills and be more flexible and in tune.
So can you give me an example? How would an improv exercise go?
Sure. So there's a game called I Love That Because.
Okay.
And I use this with students to build teamwork. You know, teachers send kids into groups. Okay, go in a group, divide into group, and accomplish, whatever the mission is. And yet, kids need to be taught how to work in groups. And so, this game is a great way to do that. Now, it also works in corporations. It works, teams of medical staff, anywhere. Basically, it is you're a design team now. Your group is a design team, and we're going to design this common object. But here's the deal: we have unlimited funds, and the rules of physics do not apply. So anything can happen. And
That's a good thing because I don't really know about a lot of those rules.
letting your imagination just go wild. So let's say we wanted to. We wanted the product to be a swimming pool that was the most amazing swimming pool ever. So each person gets a chance to add a feature to that swimming pool. But there is a structure to this. And this is how improv works, is there's a structure or rules that we follow, which is also why improv is so great with my autistic students, because they love rules and they can learn to be spontaneous when there are rules to guide them, which has been such a joy to my heart to help that process with a lot of my kids on the spectrum. But so the first person might say, oh, this swimming pool has a button that you press, and music just is any music you want just plays, and it's this beautiful stereo, and with that all this light show happens, like a hologram above the pool. The next person accepts, because improv is always yes, and so they say, yes, I love that, because it's just so much fun to float and listen to your favorite music. It puts you in the zone, and then you can open your eyes and see the light show. Oh, and our pool also has a button on the side that you press, and a team of spa personnel come out. And if you want a massage, or you want a facial, or you want a foot reflexology, right there, it's offered to you. And the next person says, oh, I love that, because it can help.
I get it. So really it is igniting that power of belonging and that sense of connection and acceptance.
Really, it is. And it's being flexible. Somebody might have come up with something that you already were thinking of, so you have to let go of it. And I had a student who recently said, that's not possible. That can't happen. And it's improv. It's all possible. We're in the field of pure possibility. If you can imagine it, we can make it happen. And he said, well, what if it's not safe? And I said, then we build a safety feature. Yes,
I like how it sort of opens up your mind to consider things that you might have thought were, previously outlandish. But in other words, just opening up those pathways, changing those pathways to say, I need to be a little bit more open-minded, because I think that as a human being and even as a leader, right, showing your leadership can be having that flexibility and open-mindedness to really help out. And I really think that listening is probably another skill that's important. Do you teach people how to listen actively?
We do so much about listening, because it is probably the key to successful relationships. And we have a phrase, listening on purpose, because listening on purpose means that you're not forming your thoughts while someone else is speaking. You are paying 100% attention to their words, to their intent, to their emotional overtones, to their body language, because we want to absorb as much as we can about what's coming from the people that we're interacting with. And there's exercises that help you to listen better too.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I mean, of course, that's a very important skill when you're interviewing somebody, is not what's my next question going to be? Oh, here it is.
I know, because then you and I can enter into a zone, Pat,
We
where,
can
you know,
we can get in the zone, and I love that you said that, because when I teach people to, we go from the awkward zone to the comfort zone to in the zone when we own our square completely, it's really important to be zoomed in. So, and I think a lot of
I
people.
love that.
Thank
Zoom
you.
in.
I'm
Look,
working on that. That's what the Own Your Square book is all about. But it really makes sense, because it does bring you into another stratosphere, if you will. And that stratosphere is really connecting. And we all know that there's magic in connection, right? What happens when people connect?
oh, that's the best. Thank you for asking. That's such a great question, because their hearts light up. And I can almost see it with my students and even the adults that I work with, the teachers, the parents. It's like a light goes off, but it's here. It's in their heart. And so there's something so freeing and liberating about experiencing the joy of connecting, and the acceptance that comes from the community that we create. So yeah, it's magical. It really is totally magical.
I like it. It's affirmation, really, that you're being heard, and that there's maybe not a better feeling, like, oh, you're listening to me. I'm not just. I mean, how many times do we speak and we are not heard, and how that hurts us so much. You can be in a group of 3 or 4 people, say something, and, well, wait a minute, there's no reaction. Hello, I'm here. And that's just, it doesn't feel good when that happens.
We are really loved when we are listened to. That's what it feels like. Listening is love.
Mhm.
Listening.
Listening is love. I love that. So we talked earlier, and you help people. You have an acronym that you've come up with that is called FLIP, right? And what does that do?
It's called Flip the Mood.
Okay.
And so much of the pain in this world is amplified because we don't know how to deal with our difficult emotions. We aren't taught to to accept that we're going to be uncomfortable sometimes, but it will pass. Our emotions are in motion. The word motion is right in the word emotion, and they're supposed to flow through us and teach us, right?
Mm.
Every emotion has, especially the difficult ones.
Motion is in motion. I like that, because then it prevents you from becoming stuck.
Exactly. If we feel it, that emotion, if we feel it, we heal it. If we stop it, we block it. It becomes a block within us.
Mhm.
So learning how to, first of all, there's going to be difficult times. Every day we're going to have uncomfortable emotions. So
Mhm.
let's teach that to kids as young as possible, so that they now can, instead of reacting by, a lot of anger comes from that pain that's underneath the anger. And allowing ourselves to feel painful emotions can create a world where people don't hurt each other. Because it's just really that lashing out, because we're trying to get rid of that pain. But if we allow ourselves to feel it, and so Flip the Mood is a way to do that. Flip is an acronym. The first letter F stands for feel it. Where is it in your body? You'll find your shoulders getting tight, or your stomach starting to hurt, or some people get a headache. So we experience it in different parts of our body. So first thing is, I have people close their eyes and just feel where it is. Now, this first step moves our attention from the continuous loop of that emotion that's in our amygdala and wants us to freeze or flee, or what's fight, flight, or or just stay. Anyway,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, freeze.
Yeah, it's like that fear, fear of, something's gonna happen to me.
Right. And so feeling it in our body takes it from our prefrontal from our amygdala, which is that part of our body, to our executive functioning. Now we give our brain something to do besides
Mm.
think about that emotion. Where is it in your body? So for me, a lot of times it's in my gut. I just feel like, oh, my stomach tightens. Okay, so now the L in flip is label it. What is that emotion that I'm feeling? There's really three basic categories that most uncomfortable emotions fall under, and it is fear, grief, and fear. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Uh,
It's anger, right? Fear, grief.
Thank you. Yes, yes. Oh, getting angry. I forget that. um,
Yeah.
those three basic, but so there's so many nuanced feelings under that, and so a lot of the program that we do teaches a lot of emotional words, so kids can distinguish between embarrassed and angry, or sad. And a lot of times they'll just say sad or angry, but we want to get into that nuance. So the L is label it. What is it? Is it that you feel left out?
Mm-hmm.
That you
Mm-hmm.
feel alone? So let's really get down to it.
Knowing why you're upset or why you're angry. Yeah.
Labeling the emotion, naming the emotion,
Mm-hmm.
labeling it now helps us to tame it more. And then the I love this one. The I in flip is it is what it is. It's there. You're experiencing it. You're not going to make it go away. All you're going to do is repress it if you deny it. And repressing it ends up taking up a lot of our energy that otherwise would be free to be present. So we expand ourselves by accepting it is what it is. But in our culture, we haven't learned how to grieve. We haven't learned how to um, allow ourselves to feel sad and just sit with the sadness.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of courage to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, of course, because people want to show up and be, okay, here I am, I'm ready. But, why not? I find that when I admit that I'm going through something, that is how I can show up authentically and just say, I'm going to tell you something and then tell it. and and what happens on the other end? It opens you up.
Absolutely. And the P in flip is plan or process. So what can you do next that can help you to move through this emotion? It might be that you want to listen to music for a while or take a bath, immerse yourself in water, which is so healing. Or you might want to do some havening, which is a way of down regulating your emotions and your sympathetic nervous system and activating your parasympathetic nervous system, which is
How do you do that?
havening was developed by two doctors, Dr. Ronald and Stephen Rudin, and it's becoming wildly popular because it's so wonderful.
Mm.
But havening is a psychological sensory therapy that downregulates the nervous system. So you put one hand on one shoulder and another hand on the other. So it's like you're giving yourself a hug, which in these days of COVID, we can self-hug.
We all need a hug, but we can't do that per se.
And you want to have some nice pressure going there and close your eyes and just take a nice deep breath. And on your next breath, you want to move from your shoulders down to your elbows and breathe out and then back up to your shoulders. So down to your nice and firm to your elbow, lift up and come back up to your shoulders. And I like to say wonderful things when we're doing that. So we're going to keep doing that action. And it's, I am safe. I am loved. I belong.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I know. It's just so
I
lovely.
love it. I really love it because I think the first step to anything is self-love, of course, and being self-aware is so important. So this is something that we can all do safely, and it feels pretty good, I have to say. Give yourself a squeeze.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
feels lovely and wonderful. Oh my gosh. So let me just sort of wrap up by asking you, how are you finding that people are coping during this very, strange and time?
This is so interesting because we're learning new ways of experiencing life. And with those new ways come emotions that we're not used to feeling on a regular basis. And those difficult emotions are bonding us, they're uniting us.
Hmm.
We used to hide our grief, we used to hide our pain. Let's face it, it ain't easy being alive. It's hard. Even kids, people think, oh, they're just kids. No, they're experiencing a lot of.
Isolation. Yeah, I mean, it's true. Isolation,
Mhm.
um, you know, I think fear of abandonment, just because in some ways we've all had to sort of cope with the situation around us. So we're really not seeing our friends like we used to. We're not going out. We're not doing things, and a lot of people, everybody has their own opinion about what's right and wrong. But what that's doing is sort of like creating a chasm, a bit of a chasm, and confusion. And so, what do you tell people and how to, deal with that?
It's an opportunity. Any difficulty we have is an opportunity. And we tend to kind of live habitually, right? We have routines that we follow, and this has been a big disruptor for all of that. So we get to say, well, what has been working for me and what hasn't? We're not covering up the way we feel by, distracting ourselves with, meetings and dinners and, social engagements and traveling. So there's a lot of time that we can use to re-examine, how do we want to be in this world? And again, it takes a lot of courage to say, that isn't working for me. And we can start envisioning what is. Here's some time. We're given this time to ourselves. Um, what habits can I change? How can I become more of who I want to be in this world in the short time that we're here on this earth? How can I show up fully and offer myself as a being, as we all are, with gifts, which we all have?
Wow. And I love how you said we get to. And that's all about opportunity and language. And Robin Fox, you are really making a difference with your gifts in this world, teaching people how to connect authentically and really ignite that power of belonging. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today on The Lift to talk about how we can show up and own our authenticity.
Thank you so much, Pat. And I have a free workshop coming up this Wednesday at 4. It's called SEL, Social Emotional Learning Now. And it's just a way for people to come learn some of these exercises and techniques. And I do it every second Wednesday of the month.
Oh,
So
perfect.
I'd love for people to join us and be great.
Yeah, it's really good. And it surprises me and amazes me how there are so many tools. So while one might not resonate with you, another surely will. So thank you so
Exactly.
much, Robin, and continue making a difference and doing what you're doing in 2021, because I know that you are changing lives.
Back at you, Pat. Thank you so much. It was lovely to spend some time with you.
Thank you. And I want to also just mention that, in 2021, now is the time to really ask yourself to show up and to say, what kind of person do I want to be this year? How do I want to connect with others? Because we all know that it's very important. So I hope that you have learned something. I hope that you have seen that I've shown up. I'm helping you. I am inspiring, I'm noticing, and I'm elevating, because shine is my word for the year. And that's what I'm pledging to do for you. So thanks so much for joining us today. And I'll see you next time on The Lift.